So for me, like Tagalog, oh yeah, no, it's for real. Like for sure, for sure. Like I've actually practiced writing Japanese characters a little bit, very small, and it was when I was trying to translate Princess Connect Redive text because I started like international went down and I managed to get a Japanese account and I was just trying to just translate it and also drawing the characters and stuff. Rosetta Stone actually has this whole like match the romaji to the character type of deal back in 2021, and I did that. But even then, it's just hard because there's like all these um, different notations. Like there's a character, and then if you add a apostrophe to it, changes it. Add a second apostrophe to it, it changes it completely, and it's like, oh my god, I simply cannot. Like there was a funny so there's Takanashi in Japan. There's a YouTuber, and it is a Japanese person interviewing foreigners and Japanese people about their thoughts of like Japanese culture. And it's interesting because he interviewed these two kids and said, so and it's in Japanese, and said, "Hey, so what do you think is easier, learning English or Japanese?" You know what the kids said? You know what the kids that live in Japan said? Which writing system is easier? They straight up said English is easier because in the Japanese, in writing and using kanji, you have to take three writing systems and then just get one here, get one there, get one here. Maybe not. Throw that away. Get that here. Like it's insane how they do it. Oh, dude, you don't get me into Sanskrit. I remember seeing Sanskrit on Emirates, and I was like, bro, I can't read Sanskrit. Like, I can at least make out some Korean, the Korean alphabet, Chinese alphabet, and the Japanese alphabet. Vietnamese alphabet is weird to me, but I can get that. But Sanskrit is just a whole nother language because those are sand dunes. No offense to who, no offense to my Middle Eastern buddies, but Sanskrit is just out of my league. It is beyond me. The Russian alphabet is beyond me too. Like Tagalog, I can understand it. It's easier for me to learn Tagalog because we use the Phoenician alphabet too. So, but however, like the way we use it is so weird. So if you hear the word nang or ang, um, so no, there's a word called nang, and it's kind of just a word to denote something. Like, um, oh man, it's hard to explain it. It's just one of those transitional words like at the of course, like no, at the to like those transitional words, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So nang and then manga. So manga is spelled so it's kind of spelled verbatim, but it's so weird because it's like uh, ma- manga is like mga. That's how you pronounce that phrase, like manga. And then there is nga. Nga is nga, so nga. And then nang is ng. It's not nang. You would think so based off the way I pronounce it, but no, it's ng. Nang ng. It's just like, oh, and the Filipinos have their own language. Like the Filipinos take the Phoenician alphabet, and then they're like, okay, we're not gonna do A to Z. We have some other things. Like I think isn't there okay the Spanish alphabet? Because I took Spanish for 4 years. My last year in junior high and the first 3 years of high school, I learned not Japanese, Spanish. I was not that great. I retained some of it, but not enough to hold a conversation. Um, but isn't there like there's an L and then two L's, and is there one with three L's? I don't remember. Fact check me, please. I don't remember. Santi, you know. Fact check me. Because like Filipinos we have our own alphabet, but we still use the Phoenician alphabet for the alphabet, if that makes sense. It's crazy. So yeah, fun fact. Only two L. Okay, only two L. I think we the same thing with Tagalog because I know like there was a point in time where I was like looking at the Filipino alphabet, and wow, there is some weird one. I think there's like two L's and an E in there, and we have some like tongue twisters too in Tagalog, which is like To be able to say nga, manang, or manga, and all that stuff, pronounce, and you have the oh yeah, you have the accent, pronounce it like pequeño, like the word small. There's the accent, the tilde on top of the n. It's like pequeño. It's not a hard n. It's kind of like a soft n. Am I understanding that right? Kind of like that, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, I have the basic understanding. It's hard to explain that. It's like it's not a hard N. It's just like you took the N and you're just like, it's a little valley. Yeah. So, man, yeah. So I've started trying to speak to my parents more in Tagalog too, because like, yeah, my dad had like there's dialects. It's like moato ko, and then there's mokato ko, which is the same thing, but it's dialect based. So, yeah. I need to, but yeah, no. I actually looked at the Filipino alphabet. It's weird, and yeah, we have tongue twisters like ngo. To the untrained ear, it probably sounds like the same thing, like repeated, but it's not. It's different ways of like ngo, ngo. It's one of the tongue twisters in Tagalog. It's just another way to practice saying the letters, I believe. Yeah, yeah. That's how it sounds like we're being like silly, but it's legit tongue twisters. It helps warm us up to say our language. My mom taught me that. Kinsa langga mama. Ako. Like my mom used to say that to me as a little kid, and then I realized I learned later on in life. Like I think last year, I realized what it meant. So when my mom says "Kinsa langga mama," that literally says who's mama's child. Ako, I would say ako mi. Tres tristes tigres tragan trigo en un trigal. Tres triste. God, I can't do that, Santi. Bro, my brain was dying just reading that phrase. I see three tristes. Is that sad? Yeah, three sad tigers tragan trigo. I don't know what that is. Trigal. That is impressive. Oh, thank you. I know a little bit. Okay, guys, for someone who never heard the tongue twister. Oh, thank you. I said it really slowly though, but so at my new job, actually, funny story. So at my new job, um, there's a lot of Hispanic workers there, and they it never fails because the funny stereotype with Filipinos means suicide tigers swallow wheat in a wheat field. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Santi. I might use that. I might use that on my Hispanic friends. That's actually a cool tongue twister, not gonna lie. But yeah, so there's a lot of Hispanic workers at my workplace now, and I would just be, walking around and be like, "Hey, good morning," and then sometimes this has happened to me for an entire week, I believe, where a lot of Hispanic workers will straight up just speak to me in Spanish, and I'm just like, I don't know how to speak Spanish. Like Spanish. I'm so sorry. Sorry, Santi. So I don't know how to speak Spanish. I'm sorry. Like I would like, and here's the worst part, right? If I say no hablo español, sometimes they will be like, "Oh, so you do know Spanish because you said it in Spanish." Like, I can't win. If I say I don't speak Spanish, some of them will be like, "Yeah, you can. You're Mexican." And I'm like, "No, I'm Asian. I'm Filipino. I don't speak Spanish." And then because I remember when I used to work at Chili's, I said this story before, but when I used to work at Chili's, there's this line cook that would constantly speak to me in Spanish, and I'm like, I don't speak Spanish. The third time he spoke to me in Spanish, I was like, no hablo español, and then he just keeps speaking to me in Spanish because I said it in Spanish, and then finally I start speaking in Tagalog. I'm like, wala ang kasabot ko, ako ang Pinoy, and I'm like. Basically, I'm just like, I don't understand you. I'm Filipino in Tagalog. And then the guy he switches dialects. He's like, tu ves? And I'm like, what the That is Spain Spanish, I believe, right? Tu ves? Because it's VES. Please tell me that's Spain Spanish. I think it is. I believe he switched dialects on me, like Spanish dialect. And I was like, I don't speak Spanish! No, you're right. Actually, I was gonna be like, nah, it used to be. It used to be. To be fair, no, you're right. It used to be. It's just I don't speak it. I don't speak Spanish. I don't speak Tagalog. Like, and even then, like, so I like Spanish is a cool language. Okay, I just don't like it when I'm just doing my own thing, and then someone just talks to me in Spanish, and then they get angry at me for not knowing Spanish because they're like, you should be proud to be Hispanic, and I'm like, I'm not. Spanish is poo, the language. Nah, nothing personal. Hey, you're good. No, I'm just saying, like, so there, it's an actual pet peeve of mine. It's unavoidable, but when you're constantly being talked to in Spanish, and then people like when when you're constantly being told you should be like, oh, like talk to in Spanish because they expect you to know Spanish because you look Hispanic when you're not. It bothers me because then there's like, because like my mom got that same treatment and she's a nurse, so she was taking care of a Hispanic family, and they got angry at her. They're like, "You should be proud to be an Hispanic," and my mom was like, "I'm not Hispanic. I'm Filipino." We're no, it's and it's like my mom is fine with it, but I'm not because I've been exposed to that over the years to the point where I don't like it when someone comes up to me and like speaks Spanish to me expecting me to know it because I'm Hispanic. And that part kind of bothers me. Oh, really? You don't like Spanish that much? Oh. It's just yeah, so it's a pet peeve of mine. When people speak to me in Spanish and they're like, "Oh, you should be proud to be Hispanic." When it's that type of approach, no matter how I phrase it, I'll be the bad guy in this. But whenever it's a pet peeve of mine when someone speaks to me in Spanish expecting me to understand them when I don't because I'm not Hispanic, I'm Asian. It bothers me, like because there are instances like it wouldn't have bothered me as much if there were not instances where people kind of gave me the stink eye for not like for saying that I don't speak Spanish, and they still think, oh, he's just afraid to be Hispanic, and it's like, no, I'm not Hispanic, I'm Asian. It's because of those interactions, which is few, by the way, but it was for me to be enough for it to become a pet peeve, where it's like, oh, you're a Hispanic, right? You should understand us, and it's like, no, I don't. I'm Asian, and sure, we use like in Tagalog uses Spanish words, but I don't speak Spanish. That's the thing. Nah, I don't. So, fun fact, fun story. So, as a kid, I was taught uh, I was taught 5 languages as a kid. When I was a little kid, and the languages were English, Spanish, Tagalog, Cebuano or Bisaya, and Ilonggo. It was so much for my brain to handle that I just didn't know what to say about something. My mom would always say this example, which apparently was true. I would point to an ice cream truck and I would make a sound because I didn't know what to say because I was being language overloaded. Yeah, it is way too much. It is. So they actually brought me to a doctor, and this is according to my mom, by the way. And the doctor said, "You need to teach your son one language. He cannot handle 5." So they chose English. So that's why I don't. I only speak English. I'm an English speaker. I have other Filipino friends and family that are like, "Oh, my daughter can speak English and Tagalog," and I'm like, "That's cool. I'm proud of you. It's great. I can't because I was language overloaded as a kid. I went to a school that taught English and Spanish, and then when I went home, my parents were trying to teach me the national language plus the dialects. You're a kid. You can't absorb that much information. So that's why I don't. That's why I'm only speaking. I'm an English speaker. Like that. So yeah, like yeah, clarifying. Like so I just want to point it out there. I guess I want to put emphasis on this. Like I don't hate Hispanics. I don't. My one of my best friends is Hispanic. Oh man, I'm starting to sound like Trump. Oh my god. Okay. Either way, the way I said it makes me a bad guy. Either way, the language Spanish I think is cool. I think Hispanic culture is great. It's just my pet peeve is when an Hispanic person comes up to me, speaking to me in Spanish, thinking I'm Hispanic, and then I tell them I'm not. I don't speak Spanish because I'm Filipino, and they for some reason still think I'm Hispanic. Like that's my pet peeve because that this actually happened to me at work. I think like 2 weeks ago. Oh right, you right, Santi. So like, okay, so the other day I was at work and I was being introduced to this coworker that I work with, and I remember saying hi, and I was talking to them in English, and they were walking to me like confused, and then they straight up spoke Spanish to me, and I was like, no, I literally said no, I don't speak Spanish, I'm Filipino, and then they just kept going with this confused, strange look towards me as if I'm like, you're Hispanic. You should be able to speak Spanish. That's what I felt from that stare that they gave me the entire time. And I'm like, duh. It's one of those things that's the reason why it's a pet peeve for me is because it for like if the interaction was, oh, they speak Spanish to me, and then I tell them I don't speak Spanish, I'm actually Asian, and they're like, oh, okay, then it wouldn't be bad. But like I said, I've had experiences where I'm like talking to someone, they speak to me in Spanish, expecting me to know because I look Hispanic, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. And then they insistently are like, no, you can speak Spanish, you're Hispanic. And I'm like, no, I'm not, I'm Asian. And they're like, you should be proud to be Hispanic. And it's like, I'm Asian. Stop it. Just because I use some Spanish words in my language doesn't mean I'm Hispanic. Well, technically I am because the Spanish conquered my people. So, but that's just a pet peeve. Take it for what you will. I think that, just like I said, I'm not a good person. So, I spent an hour just talking. Ugh. It's 9:46. I could have been using this time to play Genshin. I need to boot up Genshin. Ooh, excuse me. Yeah. But I just wanted to share that fun tidbit about me.